In last class, we saw what were artificial languages. Languages are collections of words over a given alphabet. And what is a word? It's a finite sequence of letters from that alphabet. Let me share my screen. Okay, you already have my screen. So let me recall what we did last time. So we talked about languages. So let me again consider an example. You know, suppose the alphabet consists of two letters A and B. You know what is a word? Word is a finite sequence of letters from the alphabet. So what would be some typical words over this alphabet? Sigma, which is given here. Let me put it in red. This is the alphabet sigma given here. What are some typical words over it? Words like A, B, A, or B, 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 or even the empty word epsilon, right? So those are some of the words over this alphabet. And the set of all words over this alphabet is denoted by sigma star for the given alphabet. Also recall that this hash denotes the count. So hash of A in a word X or a string X counts the number of occurrences of letter A in X. So in this string, what would be hash of A? It will be 2, right? And what will be the in this thing? What will be hash of A? It will be 0. Okay, just some notation. So you know all this. Now we are going to define some languages. So let me rub off this. Delete layer will erase all of this. Yeah. So let's consider this language A1. A1 is over the alphabet AB. So it contains members which are words over AB. And so they are members of AB star. And what is the defining property of all the words which are included in A1? They are those strings or those words X where the count of A is same as count of B. So this kind of set builder notation with a condition on the word, you know, the condition on occurrence of letters in the word is the way in which we abstractly define languages. So what are some typical members of A1? You know, AB will be in the language because the count of A is 2 and the count of B is also 2 and these are equal. What about ABA? So this will be in the language. This will not be in the language. BB will be in the language and the word can be arbitrarily long, but till it satisfies this condition, it will be in the language. So we have an infinite collection of words which meet this condition and that defines the language A1. So I hope you are clear about language A1. Some more examples. Let's consider A2. Oh boy, this somehow blanks are not coming. Yeah. So what this says is now I have fixed here that in all these examples the alphabet is AB. So I instead of saying that all string X belonging to the set AB star, I can just say X because I fixed the alphabet. X has to come from that, right? So I will write in short, omitting this belongs to AB star. I can just say A2 is the collection of all strings, obviously over this alphabet, where the count of A is even and the count of B is also even. So what are some of the strings which will be there in A2? So AB, AA, will it be in the language? To determine whether the string is in the language or not, condition is satisfied. So clearly, I mean, the number of A's is 4, which is even, and number of B's is 2, which is even. So it will be there. Whereas something like ABB will not be there because the count of A is odd, right? So this is again another collection of letters. Here, A3 contains all those letters, all those sequences consisting of a sequence of A's. Remember, notation A raised to I denotes I occurrences of A in sequence, right? I occurrences. So you know this. And so what we are saying is all words of the form I occurrences of A followed by J occurrences of B. I hope you are able to distinguish I and J. The lettering is a bit small, but I occurrences of A followed by J occurrences of B, right? So it's a sequence of A's followed by sequence of B's. What is the condition on this counts I and J? Well, we are not putting any restriction. We are saying ij belongs to natural numbers. That is, I and j can be anything. It can be 0, 1, 2, anything. And there is no relation between the I and j. So basically, we are saying an arbitrary sequence of a's followed by an arbitrary sequence of b's. So our word, what are the typical words which will be there? AAB or AB, BB, or even just BB, because you can have 0 occurrences of A, right? Or just AA. All these words will be in my language. So is the language A3 clear? I hope. If there's a doubt, ask. Otherwise, I'll assume you understood. It's not a very difficult concept. And finally, in the set builder notation, there is a misprint here. I can even put restrictions like this is same as that. So let me put restrictions like this. I is greater than j. That is, the number of occurrences of a's must be more than the number of occurrences of j. So I can add this condition to this. And then what kind of words will be in my language? I can have 0 or more j's. So let's say I've got 3 j. J is equal to 3. You know. So then I'll have a word ending with BBB, but then the number of occurrences of A must be larger than the number of occurrences of B. So I could have AA or even AAAAA. So all those words will be in this language. So I think you've got some idea of how abstractly and mathematically we specify collections of words or so-called languages. Okay, this is simple. Now the key question we have is the following. Give we are trying to solve what is called the language recognition problem for a language A. Language A is defined abstractly and mathematically like this. And you are given an input word X, which is an arbitrary word from sigma star. Okay. So X belongs to sigma star, right? And what we want to determine is whether X belongs to the language or not. Now, currently, of course, we do this intuitively, but this X can be a very large word. It can be 1 billion characters long. And what we want to do is we want to determine whether X belongs to A. And we want to do this by a kind of computer, So what we want to do is we want to solve this language recognition problem by a computational device. And such a device is called an automaton, right? So what will this automaton do? It will take this word X and then it will determine if it is an automaton for my given language, that automaton will determine whether the X belongs to the language or not. So it will scan the word and at the end it will tell you yes or no. Yes means the word is in the language, word is accepted by the automaton, and no means the word is not accepted by the automaton. So automata are acceptors of words, right? Automaton is acceptor or recognizer of words. Those are the kind of devices they are. And all the words which are accepted by the automaton are said to be in its language. So every automaton defines a language, the set of words that it accepts, right? Now, and the point is, for every language, we want to build a corresponding automaton which will accept exactly the words in the language. So this is called the automaton for the language. And most computational decision problems can be encoded as language recognition problems, and language recognition problems can be solved by building an automaton for the same language. Let me give an example. What does it take to build an automaton? So consider this language. This should be star should be above, not here. So we have this language A1, which consists of all words over alphabet AB, where the number of A's is equal to number of B's, right? So this is clear to us, what kind of words should go into this language. But suppose you have a very, very long word and you want to determine whether it is in the language or not, and we want to build a device which will recognize whether the word is in this language A1 or not. What would you do? Suppose you are given an ability, you are building this device, and what it would do is, given a string A, B, A, A, what it will do is it will scan this string. It could be a very long string. It will scan this string one letter at a time. So it will first scan the first letter A, then it will scan B, it will scan A. While it scans, it maintains some amount of data inside, and at the end of the string, it will output either yes or no. Okay, so this is the kind of device we want to build, right? Which will, because you cannot, for small strings we can directly look at it and answer, but for very long string, which is let's say a book full long, you will need a device like this to answer the question. And what will this automaton do? At each stage of computation, it will remember some information about the string it has seen so far, right? So what it will do is, let us say this automaton will contain two counters, C1 and C2. And these take natural number values, right? These counters are initialized to 0, and every time the automaton scans, reads the letter A, it will increment counter C1. So C1 will read the count of A seen so far, and every time it sees B, it will increment the counter C2, and so C2 will count the number of B's so far. And at the end of the string, we check whether the count of C1 is equal to C2. If that is the case, we will answer yes. So at the end, what will happen? If C1 is equal to C2, then yes, else no, right? So is the working of this device clear to you? I think it should be. But the point is, this automaton will scan one letter at a time. That is one step of computation. During that step, what will it do? Depending on what letter it reads, it will either increment count C1 or increment count C2. So here we have an automaton with whose memory, and this memory is an important concept. Memory is what it uses at each step of its computation. Its memory consists of two natural number counters, and the operations on the memory are just increment the counter, right? So it uses two counter. Operation is increment the counter, and at the end it compares whether two counters are equal. So compare C1 equal to C2. So this is the kind of, and if you have to build this from electronics, this is the kind of circuit you would have to build, right? Of course, remember, these counters can grow unboundedly because the words may be arbitrarily long. So you're going to need, in some sense, a machine with, growing amount of memory. As the word grows long, it will acquire more and more memory. We assume an infinite supply of memory is available. This is an idealization, and then this automaton will work, right? But there is an alternate machine that we can build. Oh, sorry, let me add a page. Oh dear, that's not correct. So let me page after, and there let me set the style to graph. Okay, fine. But we can build another kind. So what is the language? X such that count of A in X is equal to count of B in X, right? This is the language for which we are building an automaton, right? And it will take this string X and then answer yes or no. Now what we can do is, we can just maintain one counter C which belongs to integers, right? That is positive and negative integers. So now we have to represent numbers as either signed numbers, positive or negative. And the operations we are allowed are increment or decrement the counter. And then finally we have the operation test for 0. So we ask whether the counter C is 0 or not. And how does this automaton work? Every time it reads an A, it increments the counter. Every time it reads a B, it decrements the counter. So what it is maintaining is the count of A minus count of B. This is what is maintained in C, at every stage. And you scan the word left to right, and at the end of the word you check whether this counter is 0 or not, right? So here we have built an automaton with just one integer counter, where the operations are both increment and decrement, and also just test for 0, not equality of two counters, right? So now the question is, given these two kinds of, so both of these automata will solve the problem. I hope that is clear to you, right? Any difficulties so far? So this is the kind of devices we are talking about. I've given you a.
Excuse me. Yeah, could you
Yeah.
explain the second one once more? Like how
Yeah.
you're checking if the counter is equal?
What we are doing is let's take an example. Okay, that will make it clearer to you. So
Yeah.
this counter is working differently from the other one. It is having a single counter, but it can store now both positive and negative numbers, right? It stores integers. So let's take an example of a string A, B, A, right? So first it will scan A, right? Initially the counter C is set to 0. Because it's scanning an A, it will increment the current value of counter. So after reading A, the counter value which was 0 becomes 1, right? Because it has read an A. Now it reads a B. On reading B, it will decrement the counter. So counter will go from 1 to 0. Okay. Then it's again reading an, okay. So let me change this to BA. Sorry, just a better example. Now it reads another B. So it will further decrement the counter and store -1. Okay. And then it will read another A. So it will increment this counter and the counter will become 0. And at the end, we check whether the counter is 0 or not. We don't check, right? So counter becomes 0 only if the number of A's and number of B's so far is equal. That is the number of increments and decrements match, right? This is how it checks number of A's is equal to number of B's. So is the working of the automaton clear?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, but the point here is that these two are different kinds of automata. One uses two counters which are only unsigned number integers, and it uses only increment circuit, and it has to have a circuit whether two of those counters have equal value or not. Whereas in the second automaton, you'll have to build an automaton circuit which will store both positive and negative numbers, and it should allow both increment and decrement operations, and you need only test for whether this counter is 0 or not, and there is only one counter. Now, of course, this problem was solvable by both these kinds of automata. But suppose in general you have an automaton which is allowed to use two natural number counters and have only increment operation and allowed to check whether two counters are equal or not. Right at the end, what is the kind of problems you can solve using it? We can also ask what is the kind of problems which can be solved using this one counter integer automaton, right? Integer counter automaton. And there can be question about relative power of these two classes of automata. Can everything which is done in the first kind of automaton be somehow simulated and done by the second kind of automaton? Because it's using, only one counter, which is more economical. So questions like that, is what we are going to consider. Okay, just an abstract idea of what we will learn in this course. But what you have seen from this two solutions to this language recognition problem is that we can have automata with different kinds of memories they can use, right? And operations on memories they can use. And at each step, it can make use of those operations on the memory, right? And depending on the kind of memory you use, you get different classes of automata with different powers. And in this course, we are going to study 3 different classes of automata. There are many. There's this finite state automata, push down automata, and Turing machines. This is what we are going to study. And I can tell you that nowadays there are many different kinds of automata or computational devices people are considering. There are chemical machines which calculate by constructing certain kinds of molecules from smaller molecules, and there are amplification things which will, they rely on laws of mass action. But there are chemical computers. Similarly, there are biological computers, the kind of computation that goes using RNAs, DNAs, and protein synthesis. And all this, theory that you learn here is now being applied to biological systems and to chemical systems and even to some physics. Okay. For example, Wolfram has done research, the designer of Mathematica, has done a research where he says you can simulate the world as a grid of, finite state automata which are interacting with their neighbors. And the state change in the finite state automata occurs depending on the state of the neighbors. So these are called cellular automata. And he's proposing that, one of the models, of the universe is that it's a system of interacting automata. He calls it the digital universe. Okay, so this automata theory can explain a lot, but in this course we are going to study 3 kinds of automata, and today we begin with the study of finite state automata. Okay, so far the abstract idea, the question I hope is clear to you. You have abstractly defined languages like this, and then you want to construct computational devices which will recognize words of those languages. So automata are, acceptors of words or recognizers of words. And they should exactly accept those words which belong to the language and reject those which are not in the language. So we solve the language recognition problem by building automata. Okay. Questions so far? Okay. There seems to be no question. You can ask any time. So we are going to start our study with the study of finite state automata. This is going to be a big topic and it will sort of occupy us for about 40% of time, and these are devices where computations will be carried out only with bounded amount of memory. That is, for a given problem, you build an automaton, and that automaton has that you have built as a fixed amount of memory, and no matter how long is the input string that it processes, it should manage with that fixed amount of memory which is built into the automaton, right, and solve the problem. This is the kind of device we want to build. So, circuits that we built, I gave you this example, sequential circuits made out of flip-flops and logic gates is an example of finite state automaton, because the amount of memory each flip-flop or latch can store 1 bit of information, and so the number of amount of memory it has is equal to the number of flip-flops, so many bits of memory it has, right? And from that it is supposed to compute. Now we'll see connections between circuits and automata a little later, but as I said, finite state automatas are models of computational systems with bounded amount of memory. Okay, and examples of such computational systems are widespread. So digital circuits, all digital circuits, including your Pentium chips and your router chips and your DSP chips, they are all fit into this. There are embedded system controllers that you want to build, and the controller part, typically is written in very sophisticated languages, programming languages like Esterel or Lustre or Verilog and SMB. But each of these language is just a very, very high level, very, very sophisticated, language to build very large automata with billions of states. So you can program very complicated automata using this language, but ultimately what it builds is a finite state automata. Similarly, in some sort of regular pattern matching, which is available in most programming languages, automata are used. We will see examples of that. Protocols, such as network protocols or BUS protocols or cache coherence protocols. We model the working of these protocols using finite state automata. In compilers, in lexical analysis, they are used. In natural language processing, when you transform one sequence to another sequence, for example, an English sentence into German sentence, you will typically build some sort of automata with some probabilities or some weights. And so, there is diverse application of this theory of finite state automata. Other advantage of finite state automata is once you build an automaton for a given problem, you can ask questions about that automaton. So you can ask questions about this language. For example, you can ask, we are given a very big automaton, some bad kind of string, is it a member or not? You can analyze this. Or you given 2 different automata embodying 2 different designs for the same language. We can ask whether we have made a mistake in modeling. Are the 2 automata accepting the same language? So, these are called analysis questions or decision problems, and finite state automata tend to have very good decision problems as compared with more complicated push down or Turing machines. So there is great interest in finite state automata, and this is an active area of research. In fact, Currently, I'm reviewing a paper from a fairly reputed conference about regular expression pattern matching, using automata. Okay, so research keeps on. This is a topic which started in 1940 or so, and it's still young, still being researched. So the topics we'll cover in this finite state automata model are these. I will not read them out because currently they don't make any sense. But today this is what we are going to do. We're going to consider one particular type of finite automata called deterministic finite automata and see some of its uses. Okay, that's the topic for today. So this list will take us several lectures, maybe over 10 lectures to finish. And today's lecture is this deterministic finite automata. Okay, some background on finite state automata. So let's start from fresh. What are finite state automata? These are the models of systems, which have only finitely many states. The system is in finitely many states. So I want to consider the system of a light which is controlled by a toggle switch, right? So every time you press the switch, it toggles, the light toggles from on to off or off to on. So, the system can be in one of several states. And what are the states of this system? It can be in the state off or it can be in the state on, right? Light can be off or on, right? So, set of states. And this is finite, right? And this is denoted by Q, okay. So we have got these two states, right? There is an initial state in which the system starts, and there's a unique initial state in which the system starts, and that we denote by putting an arrow pointing to it, right? So the system starts by the light being off, right? Now, what are the kind of events? So here we are trying to build a model of a kind of circuit, which is describing the behavior of this light under a toggle switch, right? So what are the kind of events which can occur? That is given by something called the alphabet, the set of possible events or letters which can occur in the system, and that is usually written by Q. And in our case, the alphabet consists of a single. So what is Q in our case? It's a set of two things, off and on, right? So I will write here. Let's not use blue. Blue doesn't show up very well in the slides. Let's stick with black. So what is Q for this model? It consists of two states, off and on, right? Two states. The initial state, which is denoted by, okay, so I have initial state, which must be a member of Q. So I will have Q0, which is one of the elements of this, and it belongs to Q, of course. It has to be that, right? So I have got Q0 is equal to off. My initial state is off, right? Then I've got an alphabet. What are the kind of events that can occur in this system, right? So I've got sigma, and that is the set. I have only one kind of thing in toggle switch. All I can do is I can press it. So there's only one event in this. So here we have got a unary alphabet consisting of press, right? That is the kind of thing. And what happens at a time, the system is in one of these two states, off or on. And when you do an event, based on the current state it is in and based on which event is done, it will change its state. So it will make a move or a transition, right? So what it will do, it will make a move or do a transition. And the transition depends on the source state, the current state in which you are there, and what is the event that occurs. So, of course, if we are off and if we do a press, the state of the system changes from off to on. The light turns on, and the next time you press, it will go off, right? This is a trivial example. I'm not trying to teach you how light bulb is controlled using a toggle switch. I'm just saying that you can model it by a device like this. So each arrow is called a transition, And the transition, is labeled by the event on which that transition occurs or the letter on which that transition occurs. And on occurrence of that letter, the automaton will move from its current state to the next state. Okay, so if it was in off state, on press it will move to on, and if it was in on state, it will move to off. So is the working of the system clear to you? Okay, and what we can do is, hello? Yeah, if there is a question, please ask. Huh? So how do we model the transition of the system? Transition is set of arrows where each arrow consists of the source state. So let me write it down here. Oops, I should do it in black. Excuse me. There is a new tablet and I still can't find buttons. Right. Yeah. So transition is basically, a triple, a source state P, a letter A and a Q, where P is the source state or the current state, right? A is the letter or the event on which the transition is taken, and Q is the target state or the next state. Right? And basically for every source state and for every letter, we must tell what happens on pressing the event. So actually this set of transitions of your automaton is given by a transition function.
One doubt. Yeah. In PAQ, P is either off or on, like in which initial state it is.
Yes.
A is where it is going to, the other option.
Right.
And Q?
Yeah.
What is
so
Q?
Q is also a member of Q. So this tuple comes from the following set. Is this notation clear to you? Let me write it in blue, dark blue, so that it's clear to you. What do I mean by this triple? Q cross sigma cross Q? It's a set of 3 tuples, like this, where the first element is one of the elements of Q. The middle element is from this alphabet sigma, and the last element is from the set of states Q, right? And this should belong to that. Okay. So transition as a triple has this structure, but I will talk more about transitions. Transition actually is given by this function delta, and what is delta? Delta is a function which takes 2 arguments. It takes a state, the current state, and the current letter sigma. So it takes 2 arguments, a state and a letter. Okay. And it gives as a result the next state, and it's a total function. So if I write here delta of, let's say, on press, where will it take you? So if you apply function delta to the argument state on and letter press, where will it take you? This arrow is taking you to off. So the result of applying function delta to on and press is off, to off and press is on, right? And delta is basically a function which for every state and for every letter will give you the state to which you are moving. So Q represents the source state or the current state, sigma represents the current event that has occurred, and Q denotes the state in which you wind up, the next state in which you wind up, right? So this is called the transition function. It's a total function, that is for every Q and sigma, there should be an answer and there should be a unique answer because it's a function. So I think this transition function is a very important concept, and you should be able to understand what it does, right?
Sir, but like you have given us, it's like the syntax PQ, PAQ, but yes, in the delta function that you explained, there are only 2 parameters. So
right. No, but this target Q is here. So I think don't look at this syntax. You know, I was just trying to tell what are the labels of this. So this is the real definition.
Oh, okay. Okay.
This is the real definition. So let me do this little more in clear. So what have you got? You've got this set of states, the initial state, the set of letters or the events, and then I have this transition function. Diagrammatically, I can give it like this, right? So an automaton can be specified. Okay, I think I need one more page. I'm going to go a little slow. But I think it is important that you guys, get these fundamentals right, because once you get that, then things will become easier. So paper style should be graph. Okay. So what is the kind of automaton I'm trying to build? I have got an off state, right? I have got an on state. This is the initial state. So I'm diagrammatically representing all the components of the automata, and the transition function I'm giving by drawing set of arrows, right? And this is called the transition diagram or the transition, graph. Some people, of course, call it just the automaton. Okay, but this represents the what function? It represents the following function. The function, the transition function, is always given us source state of the edge and the current letter. What is the state which you go? So it also requires that from a state on a given letter, there is exactly one outgoing arrow. Okay, that is implied by this condition that this delta is a total function, right? So from every state on every letter, there is exactly one outgoing arrow. Okay, and that is the function. Now we conveniently give this function as a table. So what does this table contain? Okay, maybe I need a little more space.
Sir, one question.
Yes.
So the previous method we saw where we represented this transition function as a relation, that is also valid?
It's a very good question. Let us defer it till the next lecture. We will currently only represent it by this transition function. This relation, of course, every function can be cast as a relation, as you know from your set theory, right? But relations are more general. For example, relations will also allow things like this: from off, on press, you can go to on, or you may have a faulty automaton which says it's also possible that off on from press, the system misses this and it can also remain in off. So you have a kind of multiple possibilities on the same event from the same state, and relations will be able to represent that. But those kind of automata we are not considering today. We are considering only what are called deterministic automata. So the function is the correct view. The relation view we will take next time. Okay, but good question. And keep them coming. Okay, so this transition function we can write as a kind of truth table of that function. On the on the top we write down what are the letters which are letters of the alphabet. In our case there is only one letter called press, right? If there were two letters A and B, we would have two columns A and B. So there's a column for every letter of the alphabet. The system can be in off state or it can be in on state, right? And we can write down from off state on press what is the state to which you go. So you go to on, right? So this is the result of applying function delta, to the off state on press. So what we are writing in by this entry, is the following thing: delta of off, comma press is equal to on. That is what we are writing by this entry. And the other thing we can write here is we can write that from on state on letter press or event press, we will go to off state. That is delta of on press equal to off. So rather than enumerating things like this, we'll write it as a table like this, right? So this is called the transition table, and this transition function is typically given in the table form. Now we can slightly enrich this and also indicate by putting an arrow in front of off that the system off is actually the initial state. So we are coding this whole diagram by this what is called the transition table with this decoration off. So is this represent? So we can draw it as a diagram. We can give it mathematically. We can give this automaton mathematically by giving the set of its states, the alphabet, the transition function, and the initial state Q0. So we can give it as a 4-tuple mathematically, or we can give the automaton as this diagram, or we can give it as this transition table. And all three are equivalent descriptions of the finite state automaton. So is this clear? Any question? And I have only defined the syntax of the automaton, right?
Difference between
Yes,
Q
sir.
and Q0 is what?
Capital Q is the set of states of the system, right? So let me take another example. Let me add a page after. Okay, now suppose we have a different design and you tell me what it does. Right? So what will be capital Q here? The set of states in which the system can be
Off, on, and dim.
right, exactly. And on. It has 3 states now. What is the alphabet?
Press.
Set containing a single letter press. Always a set.
Press.
Yeah. And the transition function is given by, you can draw the table for this, So what kind of table? There is only one column called press because there's only one letter. There is off, there is dim, and there is on. And what will be the entry here? Off will go to dim. And dim will go to on. And on will go to off. So this is a kind of automata, light switch where light can be dim or bright. And the system starts by light being off, and on first press it will go to dim. On the next press it will become bright. I shouldn't call it on, I should call it bright for right. So I have to change everything accordingly. But that is what I mean by dim and bright, right? I will call it on just for simplicity. So you got the idea now. What is Q0? Q0 is the initial state. Initial state here is what? Of one of the elements of Q. That we are trying to say of all these states, when you start the circuit, what is the state in which it starts, right? So off is an element of Q. Q0 is an element of capital Q. Remember, capital is for sets and small letters are for elements. Okay, so is this clear?
Yes.
Okay, good. So now we have got this function. Now what we are going to do is we are going to talk about executions of such systems, the semantics, right? So I'm going to draw executions of this system. So what is the execution? The system starts in off state initially, right? And suppose I do a press, then what will it go to? On, right? So here by this arrow, I'm denoting that from off on the press, it moved to on, and then I did another press, and then it moved to off, and then I did another press. This is continuing here. Yeah, another press, and then I got on. So here I have an execution of the system where I did 3 presses, of the switch. And what happened? The system moved from off to on, then on to off, and from off to on, right? So this is the execution of this automaton on sequence of 3 presses. Is this clear to you intuitively?
Yes, sir.
So such a sequence is called an execution, right? We'll do execution here. So we'll do execution on the given sequence of input. So press is input, and suppose somebody did 4 presses. So they did press to the power 4, which means sequence of 4 presses. What will the execution look like? You will be in off, and then you will make a transition on press to on or dim, right? And then you will have a press which will take you to on, and then you will have next press and it will wind up in off, right? And there is one more press left. So you do one more press, 4 presses, and it will wind up in dim. So after 4 presses, by this execution, the system will wind up in the dim state, right? Is this clear to you?
Yes.
So you can see that for any given sequence of inputs, that is any word over this alphabet, the system has a unique execution. Okay, there is exactly one execution that can arise, and that execution has the last state in which you wind up, right? This is the semantics of this automaton, how this automaton works on a given word. Okay, so I think if you understood this, we have come far. Let us take one more example. Here we have got a deterministic automaton with 2 letters A and B, right? And the automaton is in 2 states. So syntax wise, what is the okay, I'm sorry, I should learn to write better with this tablet. What is my set of states of this automaton? S1 and S2, right?
S2.
What is my alphabet? 2 letters, A and B,
AB.
right? Right. What is my initial state? I've drawn it by this initial arrow. So my
S1.
Q0 is equal to S1, right? And what is my transition function delta? I will draw it as a table. Okay, so somebody should help me draw this. It's going to have something like this. There are 2 columns, one for letter A and one for B. And I've got 2 states, S1 and S2. And I'll put a little arrow here to denote that this is the initial state. Now S1 on A will go where?
S1.
So it will
S1.
remain in S1 on occurrence of letter A, right? S1 on B will go to S2. S2 on A will come back to
S1.
S1. And S2 on B will remain in S2, right?
S2.
This is the behavior, right? I have not explained to you what this double circle means. I'll do it in a moment, right? So that was the transition table representation, right? Now consider, you know, a word over this alphabet, such as this ABBA. You know, here we are given a sequence of 4 events that occur, ABBA. What does the automaton do? It will have this execution. It will start with state S1. On A, it will remain in S1 because we will follow, let me draw that in blue. It will, on occurrence of A, it will follow this letter. Then a B will occur. So it will follow this arrow. Then another B will occur. So it will follow this arrow. And then an A will occur. So it will follow this arrow. So the execution is from S1. You go to S1, you go to S2, S2 on from S2 on a B, you go to. So this execution is clear to you? I think it should be given. And there is a unique execution on a given input word for the automaton. This is the most important property of deterministic finite state automata, right? By the way, a little bit of terminology. If from this execution, if you just write down the sequence of states that occurs on this word ABB, you know, like S1, S1, S2. S2, S1, right? This is the sequence. This sequence of states which arises on occurrence of this word is called a run, right? So run is the state sequence part of the execution, and given the state sequence in the input word, you can recreate the execution. So somehow executions and runs are same, but you are recording little less information here, but that is reconstructible from the word and this. So, you know, technically the word run is used in literature and executions are more clear to see, but it's sufficient to know the run. So this is just a technicality, you know, run is this state sequence part of it. Okay, so has a unique run. Now you remember we want to define, you know, language as a collection of words over alphabet sigma. So for that we designate a subset of the states as final states, you know. So F is some subset of Q. Okay. In our case, we designate F to contain only a single state S1, you know. Okay. And what is the idea? On a given word, the execution winds up in a final, in a end state. Right. So every execution finishes in an end state. And if that end state is a member of this set F that we have given, which is some subset of Q, then we say that this execution or this run is accepting. So is the notion of accepting run clear? Given a subset of states which are final states, the run is said to be accepting if the end state of the run, execution is in F. Okay. So in our case, is this run here accepting?
Yes.
Yes. Suppose we had the input word was only ABB, the last A was not there. So this transition did not take place and our end state happened to be S2, right? Is this run accepting? No, because S2 is not the member of set of final states, right? So final states somehow represent good states of the system. And on the word, at the end of processing the word, if you wind up in the final state or good state, then you say that the word is good, it is accepted. So this is how automaton accepts some words and does not accept some word. So every word has a unique run, and if that unique run results in the end state, which is a final state, then you say that the run is accepting, and because the run is accepting, the word is accepted by the automaton. So is the notion of an automaton accepting a word clear to you? This is a very simple but important concept. So every automaton accepts some subset of words over sigma star. For every word in sigma star, there is a run, and that run ends up in an end state. And if that is the final state, we say that word was accepted. Otherwise, it was not accepted. So the word ABBA was accepted, but the word ABB was not accepted by this automaton. Clear? Questions?
Yes, sir. Sir, the end state condition that the automaton is checking to see if it's accepted or not. Is it possible to have this same end state condition in any other position of the entire automaton? Like, assume we have a 5 A, B, B, A, B, and can we have a check instead of on the last term? Can we have the check on the first term or any term in between?
Right. That's a good question. That's a good question. But the standard model is that you check for the end state. And if you wanted to check some property of some in-between state, during the execution, it turns out that you can encode it somehow to a different automaton, which once reaching that in-between state will stay in that till the end. So at the end you will accept. So somehow this standard model, which checks only at the end state, is very robust. And the kind of variations to the automata definition that you are giving can be actually modeled by this standard automaton. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So you see, in automata theory, we try to give a standard model, and you are proposing a variant of that model, some sort of non-standard or a more convenient model. But it turns out that that more convenient model that you are proposing can actually be converted into a standard model, slightly different, set of states, but it will do it. So you are always playing these games, right? So if you come up with an example of the kind of automaton you want offline and mail it on the discussion channel, we will try to see how we can encode it as the standard automaton. Okay?
Yes, sir.
But it's a good question. You should think of what variations to this model could be there, and do they have the same power as our standard model or not? I mean, this is the kind of study we want to do in this course. So you guys are well on the way. Okay. So now we have this notion of final states, and every final state is denoted by putting double circle of that. So we could have had another automaton where instead of F being just S1, we could have had F as both S1 and S2. That is, whether you are in S1 or S2, you accept. Such an automaton you will draw by putting a double circle here also. Okay. So the diagrammatic way of indicating set of final states is clear to you? Yeah.
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Yeah, just 1 minute. I'll finish with one more thing. Now here we had this transition table, right? Where we did not give which were the final states. So every final state is marked by putting an F after that. S2 is not a final state, we will not put it. If there was another S3 which was also final, we would put F against it. So this kind of transition table with initial state and final states indicated also represents the automaton. And the alphabet is clear from the labels of the atom. So you don't have to, the set of states is clear from the labels of the rows. So you know the whole automaton can be added by a transition table which looks like this, right? So we have three representations. We have this mathematical representation where every automaton is given by following things: the set of its states, the alphabet, which is the set of letters, the transition function, you know, the initial state, and the set of final states, where we have Q0 is a member of set of states, set of final states is a subset of Q, right? For given automaton, you have to fix what that F is. And finally, delta is a function from Q cross sigma to Q. So this is the, so every finite state automaton, M is a 5 tuple like this. We can give it in this diagram form called transition diagram, or we can give it in table form called transition table. So there are these three representations. And the behavior of the automaton on a given word is given by constructing its execution or its run, and whether that run is accepting or not determines whether the word is accepted or not, right? This is the summary. And so this is the what is called the syntax of DFA, this 5 tuple. Okay, and the semantics, and we can of course represent the automaton in three formats, either mathematically or as the diagram or as the table. So this is 5 tuple, what is called the 5 tuple representation of the automaton. This is the transition table, and this is the transition diagram, also called the automaton graph. Okay, and here is an example where the system has got three. Let's examine this a little bit more. Our system has got 4 states. They are numbered 0, 1, 2, 3. So he has not written the numbers there, but I can write them in red here: 0, 1, 2, and 3. You know, he just represents this filled dot for states. And here are the names of the states: 0, 1, 2, 3. There are 2 letters A and B, and the transitions which occur. So from 0 on an A you go to 1. So from 0 on an A you go to 1. That is what you fill up the entries like that. And so you can say from 0 on an A you are moving to state 1, right? So the 3 representations are equivalent. So you should study these 3 representations for this case offline, and you understand what the execution of such an automaton is, right? We have drawn the executions somewhere, right? So yeah, there was a question. Can you ask the question?
So if DFA is represented by that 5 tuple consisting of Q, sigma, Q naught, and
yes,
all,
exactly.
then what about a non-deterministic automaton?
You are ahead of me. Are you an electrical engineering student or?
Yes, sir. I'm an electrical.
Right. So I think electrical engineering students have seen some of these automata in the circuit theory. Non-deterministic automata is a generalization of deterministic automata which we are studying today, and that is for the next class. This is where that concept of relations will come in. But today let us stick with just these functions.
Okay. Fine.
So only deterministic automata, that is from a given state on a given letter there is exactly one move. The system has no choice. The design system can only do one thing on a given letter from a given state.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
These are the kind of systems that, you know, even for physical system, Newton assumed that the world is deterministic. It can be in current state, which is determined by the values of observed variables and their derivatives and derivatives of derivatives. And there's exactly one thing it can do from there. So it evolves in a deterministic way, you know, and the way it behaves, you know, depends on the current state and what happens on the inputs. Okay. So this determinism is a very deep idea in science. Okay. And then we will consider non-determinism, which is very prominent in computer science, which actually generalizes this in a very interesting way. So we will let us keep it for next time. Okay.
Yes, sir. Sure.
But today, assume that this is a total function. That is from every element of Q and every element of sigma, there is only one thing that you go to. Okay. So let me define the semantics. And that semantics of an automaton can be given like this. You're given a DFA which is 5 tuple as we saw. Now, you know, on a given state Q and a letter A, the transition will tell you which state we are going to. So let's assume that from Q on an A you go to Q prime. We can denote this diagrammatically in the execution as Q arrow Q prime with a label A, right? This is just a this arrow notation is just a short form of this. Mathematically, this is what we are saying, but we write it like this. So this is just notation, okay? Agreed? Don't get confused between this and this. It's the same thing. Okay? Now what are we saying? That given a DFA, deterministic finite state automaton, and an input word which we denote abstractly as a sequence of n letters A0, A1, AN minus 1. By the way, you should get used to this convention. In computer science, we always begin with 0. So, you know, our word has n letters which are called A0, A1, AN minus 1, right? Where n can be arbitrary. So this can represent an arbitrary word. So you are given an automaton A, let me write, and an input word X, right, of length n. What happens? On this word, the automaton will have an execution, right? It will pass through sequence of states Q0, Q1, Q2 up to Qn. That is n plus 1 states, right? And actually the execution, which is not drawn here, will look like this. On Q0, on letter A0, you will go to Q1. On Q1, on letter A1, you will go to Q2. And that sequence will go on. So in general, from state Qi, which occurs in this run, on letter Ai, you will move to Qi plus 1. So somewhere within this dot 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 Qi, on Ai, I will go to Qi plus 1. And this will go on till I wind up in some final state Qn, right? So on a word like this, A0 to AN minus 1, the automaton will pass through sequence of states Q0, Q1, Q2 up to Qn, which is drawn here. So this is the execution, yeah, and the corresponding run is this sequence of states Q0, Q1, Q2, Q3, Qn, right? So on a given, for a given automaton and a given word, there will be a unique run through which the run is obtained by choosing Qi plus 1 from Qi and Ai according to this transition function. So any confusion about this mathematically abstract definition of a run? Because this defines the execution or run of the automaton on any given word, right? And this run is unique. So I know we are using a bit of symbols, but in computer science, you get used to these abstractions. And I think for you people, it is not a challenge. You know, somewhere else other than IIT, I might have to worry what these notations say. But if there is a question, please ask. So this is exactly what we saw before, except that instead of giving execution, we are giving the run. Okay. And this run is accepting if the last state of the run belongs to the set of final states, right? We had seen this before, so I'm just repeating it in this one slide. And a word X is accepted by an automaton if the run is accepting. So this is the kind of semantics or the definition of words accepted by an automaton. This is the formal definition, mathematical definition of, you know, what does it mean to say that a word is accepted by a deterministic finite state automaton? So is this definition clear to you? Any question?
So, yes, in the last line, so word is accepted by the automaton means the word X belongs to the language of the automaton, right?
That is, I have not yet defined the language of the automaton, but I'll do it on the next slide.
Okay.
You know, so the language, every automaton accepts some words and does not accept some words from sigma star, right? So if you collect all the words which are accepted by the automaton A, what you will get is a subset of this sigma star. And that is called the language of the automaton. That is the collection of words which are from sigma star, which are accepted by the automaton, is called the language of the automaton. So every automaton defines a language, right? Is this clear? And the language is called, and here is the definition. A language is called regular if it is accepted by some deterministic automaton. Okay, so some subsets of sigma star may be acceptable by a finite state automaton, but believe me, there are some languages which cannot be accepted by a finite state automaton, and they will not be regular. So we classify languages into regular or not, and in order to show that a language is regular, we have to exhibit a corresponding DFA which exactly accepts the language that we have in mind. Okay, so here we have a mathematically abstractly specified language and we have an automaton, and we are trying to show that the two are the same. And then, if that language is exactly the set of words accepted by a DFA, then we say that the language is regular. So is the terminology clear? Okay. I think there is no confusion, but as we use it, things will get more clear. So let me take this example. What are the kind of words this automaton will accept? What is its language? So what is L of A1? That is the question I'm asking. What are the kind of words it will accept? So let's give you some practice. Certainly ABBA was accepted by it because on ABBA there was this run which wound up in S1. So this will contain certainly ABBA. We know that. But what other? Will epsilon belong to it? Empty string. On empty string, you are here and you have not made any transition. So your run is only consists of S1 without any arrows. And that's a final state. So epsilon is also accepted, right? Do you agree?
Yes, sir.
Why is epsilon accepted by this? You have this execution consists of S1 with 0 arrows. And this is a, the last state of this execution is a final state. So epsilon is also accepted by this automaton. This is a slight technicality, but you should understand it, right? What other words will be there? Remember, what is the behavior of this automaton? Whichever state it is in, whether it's in S1 or S2, on occurrence of A, it will go to S1. And whichever state it is in, whether it's in S1 or S2, on occurrence of a B, it will go to S2. So the state in which the automaton winds up depends on the last letter of the word. If the last letter was A, then it will wind up in S1. And if the last letter was a B, then it will wind up in S2. And our set of final states consists of only S1. So clearly all the words which end in A will take you to state S1 and they will be accepted. And all the words which end in B will take you to S2 and they will not be accepted. So it recognizes all the words which end in A, but also empty word which does not have any letter ending it, right? So what is the language of this? You can write it abstractly as all strings X such that X is either epsilon or X ends in A, right? This is the language of automaton A1. So you can figure out what the language of this automaton is.
Sir, hello.
Hello.
Empty word means epsilon, right?
Yes, empty word is epsilon. So Greek letter epsilon is used to denote empty word. Okay. Yeah, that's the notation. So typical question in this part, and you will get lots of practice of this both in homeworks and in quizzes and in exams, is that you will be given a language like this and you will be asked to construct its automaton. Or you will be given an automaton and you will be asked to write down its language. Or you may be asked questions like, does a given word is a given word accepted by the automaton, or the given word belong to the language, or given a language and an automaton, are they same? That is, they accept the same, they have the same language. Okay, these are the 5 types of questions that you will have, for deterministic finite automata, right? And here, given the automaton, we have constructed its language. Agreed? So the kind of questions we are considering is clear to you? Okay, what we are going to do here is, now what was my scheme? Okay, I'm going to give you practice of some automata. So rather than doing this, which is called big step semantics, which will differ for the next class, I'm going to do practice. I am going to give you languages and we are going to construct automata for those, right? So given a language which is abstractly specified, we will define deterministic finite state automata for them. Okay, that is the question. We will consider two or three different languages. So before we begin on it, are there any questions?
Yes, sir. So before we had defined that language, sorry, not, yeah, it's a language. So it's a set of all words which have the same number of A and B.
Ha!
That automata that we had with the two counters which are natural or one counter which is an integer, that's not finite state, right?
It's not finite state. So the question is that language regular? Can that automaton didn't work? Can we, is some clever guy from IIT able to come up with a finite state automaton which will recognize it? Or you claim that, oh, I'm not able to construct any. You may even intuitively say that somehow you have to keep count of, how many A's are there over how many B's. The difference should be remembered and no finite automaton can do it. But how do we mathematically precisely prove that this is not a regular language? So this is a question about whether that language was regular or not, whether it was recognizable by any finite state automaton. And we will consider these questions later in the course. Okay?
Okay, sir. Yeah.
Hello? Please ask.
Yes, sir.
I'm not able to hear. Somebody else was trying to answer, ask a question. Is there another question?
No.
Okay, if there is no question, let us begin. So what are we? We are going to be given languages and we are going to construct deterministic finite automata for these languages, right? This is the kind of exercises we are doing. So you can think of this as a tutorial. Okay, so first language we consider is the following. My alphabet is going to be only, in all these examples, my alphabet is going to be AB. So I will not mention it separately. So it's clear what is my alphabet. I'm going to have and let me draw this in black. So I'm going to have all words of the form A raised to I, B raised to J, such that ij are natural numbers. I and j both are greater than equal to 0. So what are some typical words in this language? A, B, 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 right? So I've got A to the power 2, that is A, and B to the power J, which is string B, 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 and it's catenation of these two things. So I've got A, B, B, B. So basically a sequence of A's followed by sequence of B's, right? I can also have 0 A's and arbitrary number of B's. So I can have just B, B, B also, or 0 number of B's. So I can also have AA. Or I could have 0 A's and 0 B's. So epsilon is also in the language. So these are some typical elements of, and at abusing the notation, I can write down A star, which means arbitrary number of A's followed by arbitrary number of B's. So this is the kind of words we have in this language. So star means arbitrary number, right? And we'll see this notation star in future. We have not done it. Actually, this star, it was defined by a mathematician called Kleene, but we'll see that in future. So currently means star means arbitrarily many. Okay. So is the language clear to you? Now we want to build an automaton. Now how will this automaton work? Well, you can be in a phase where you are allowing more A's to occur, right? So you can be in a state, so I will draw this in red. So you are in a state S0 where the intuition is that S0 allows more A to occur, right? From that state. S1 is that you're finished with A's and you are in a phase where only B's are allowed. Because strings have to be of the form sequence of A's followed by sequence of A's. So you could be in this first A part or you could be in this B part, right? Only B's, right? And after a B, if an A occurs, then we can't, that's an error state, right? So I'll have an S3 and S3 is an error state, right? So we'll have this kind of logic in defining this automaton. We'll start initially by allowing A's to occur, and in S0, what can we allow? If an A occurs, then of course, after that further A's can occur or a B can occur. So from S0, both A's and B's can occur, right? So is it clear that from S0 we can allow arbitrary number of A's occur? So we can go around this loop any number of times. Also, while you are in this initial phase of processing A's, a B occurs. In that case, you move to the B part of the sequence, right? So on occurrence of a B, you move to S1, and while you are in S1, you can allow any number of B's to occur. But while you are in S1, where only B's should occur, if an A occurs, then you move to S3. And this is your set of final states. This is also a set of final states because number of B's may be 0. So I have defined this automaton, where firstly check that we have 3 states, S0, S1, S2, I'm sorry, not S3. And from every state on every letter I have given an arrow. So it's a total function, the transition function. From S0 on A, you remain in S0, on B, you go here. From S1 in B, you remain there, on an A, you go here. And from S2, on either A or B, you remain in S2. Okay, so this is the kind of automaton I have designed for this language. Now, claim is that the language recognized by this automata, the set of words accepted by this automata are exactly the words in this language. So here I had got some language called A, and language called L, let us say. And here I've got an automaton A, and the claim is that language of automaton A is same as, I'll call this L1, is L1, right? So this language in this automata define the same language. Now, does anybody have any doubt about what language is accepted with this automaton? What can it do? It can start in S0. If word is epsilon, it will accept it because it's already in epsilon, S0, and no transitions occur. If a sequence of A's occur, you go around this loop and stay in S0. And if your word consists only of A's, that is in the language and that is accepted. If after some number of A's, a B occurs, you move to S1. And that is allowed. So that is also a final state. After reaching S1, some B's can occur, right? And that though all those words are still in the language because you have had a sequence of A's followed by a sequence of B's. So this is also an accepting state. But after these B's, if an A occurs, then you are in trouble. And then you go to reject state, which is a kind of sink state from which you can never recover, no matter what happens in future. So this is the kind of automaton we have designed. It works in 2 phases. The initial phase where sequence of A's is occurring, and then sequence of B's is occurring, and after B's, if A occurs, you reject, right? So is the design clear? Any confusion? This is the first automaton we have designed.
Hello, sir.
Hello?
Double circle mean final state, right?
Final state, yes, yes, yes. So here our set of final states, I'll write it in black. F consists of S0 and S1, right? And Q is S0, S1, S2. So you should get some proficiency in converting this transition diagram into the 5-tuple notation, okay? Or from 5-tuple notation, write this diagram or draw that table notation, okay? So of course you should get that practice, okay? And maybe you can try to write this in diagram notation and the tuple notation, okay? Maybe the table notation is better. Okay, one more example before we stop.
Sir, one doubt. Yeah, here
Yes.
in the notation where you have in the second line, sir, language is equal to A square B. Like, what is the notation that the last term should be ending with a B? So
here what I'm saying is the words which are included in L1 consists of following. It consists of one string, catenated with another string. And the
So,
first
sir,
string is
square means a set of A's.
no. A raised to the power I means sequence of I A's.
I
I is a natural number. Okay, so this is something that we had done last time, but I will recall it for you. So notation, a to the power I, where I belongs to natural number.
No,
And
sorry,
A
I
belongs
understood.
to
It
alpha.
looked like 2 for me. That's why I was getting confused.
Oh, I see. It was I. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir, I got it.
So A square will mean AA.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
And
Yes,
A raised
sir.
to I means AAA occurring I times.
I
Okay.
times. Yes.
And here I'm collecting all the strings where there are I recurrences of A followed by J occurrences of B, where I and J can be any two natural numbers greater than or equal to 0. Okay.
Yes.
You can put conditions like I is greater than J. Okay. Etc. Okay. I'm going to do one more example for you. Okay.
So I have another question about that previous example.
Yeah.
So can we go to the previous page? I mean, like, what is the premise that we are working under? We are given a language and we want to construct some finite automaton, some deterministic finite automaton, which will
recognize the same language.
So is it like some DFA, or like are we providing constraints? Because I don't see
No, some DFA. Okay. No constraints on what kind of DFA you have. It can have a million states. Somebody may produce a more optimized design with only 2 states. All this is possible.
Sure. So we are okay with, I mean, at least at the moment, we are okay with some DFA, but in the future, we can add further constraints as to how the design should be.
What kind of constraints did you have in mind?
Maybe the number of states, because
right. So I think you are anticipating me. This is going to occur almost towards the end of the finite state automata. We are going to try to design an optimized automaton with fewest number of states. Okay. This is called the minimal automaton, minimal DFA. Okay. Which has the least number of states, and such a DFA is going to be unique. So, but that is going to be at the end of the finite state automata investigation. So it's very good you are thinking of this, but currently any DFA, okay, just intuitively design.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I think I will not do further examples today. We have run out of time, and we will take up more examples of DFA in the next class, and then I will also do some constructions on DFA. Okay, so I think let us stop today. What we did was we defined what are finite state automata. We intuitively motivated it as systems which stay in finitely many states. The number of states of in a Rubik cube is finite. On the top face, what are the colors, and on the there are 6 faces. On each of these 6 faces, what is the pattern of color? There are only finitely many combinations. On a chessboard, the way the pieces are arranged, there are only finitely many combinations, right? So all these are examples of chess is an example of finite state system. And a transition will tell you, given the current layout of the chessboard, where a move can take you. Let's say each type of move has a letter, and like move the pawn front, or move the pawn 2 steps. Each of this is a letter of the alphabet. So the chess game can actually be modeled as a finite state automaton. Okay. So we have modeled, what are finite state automata. We have considered one specific kind of finite state automaton called deterministic finite automaton, where from every state on every letter of the alphabet, there is only one move. We consider the syntax of such an automaton, in fact, in one of the 3 forms. Mathematically, it could be given as a 5-tuple, or it could be given by a transition table or by a transition diagram. And the 3 are equivalent. You can convert one to the other. We also considered the notion of execution of this automaton on a given word. For every word, the automaton will have unique execution. And if that execution winds up in a final state at the end, we call that execution as accepting, or the run as accepting. So we have the notion of whether a word is accepted by an automaton, and that gives rise to the language of the automaton. And then there are questions like, given an automaton, what is its language? Or for a given language, can I construct an automaton which recognizes that language? And if that language is such that some DFA recognizes, it's called a regular language. So clearly this language is regular, because we have defined this automaton which is equivalent to it, right? Language equivalent to it. This is what we did today. Okay, I think we have run out of time, so I will say thank you. and we will carry on in the next class. And if you have questions, either you can stay on or you can ask it in the discussion channel on Teams. Okay.
So I have like one other question, like, so is there, I'm just thinking of this, like, is there any correspondence between automaton in this diagram that we are drawing and graphs?
See, this automaton is some sort of directed state and edge level graph only, no? Where some states are distinguished, the set of final state. So it is a digraph. And in analyzing this automata, you will see that we will use lot of graph algorithms. Okay. So we will very often touch this automaton transition diagram as a graph, and we'll do some analysis of it as a graph to answer some questions on automata. But that's in future in the course. Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Who was asking the question, please?
I'm Arvind.
Arvind. Okay. Good question. I think I'm getting many questions anticipating what we are going to do, and I think that is nice. Okay. Any more, or we shall stop? I think we should stop. We have overshot the time. So remaining questions on the discussion channel. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I had
Yes.
one thing.
Yes.
Sir, I am the MS student who wanted to sit through the course.
Yes,
Aniket.
that's not a problem. You're welcome. I mean, anybody can sit to them. If you send me a mail with your roll number, I will even enroll you on the Moodle. You know, so you won't be formally be part of the course, and which means you don't have to sit in exams. You can, of course, but it will not show up on your grade sheet because that is the IIT rule. But you can choose which classes to attend, which tutorials to attend, which exam. You are always welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had some questions regarding research and I had some topics I wanted to talk about.
Arvind, we can set up a separate meeting.
Okay.
On Teams. Yeah.
Yeah, sir. I'll text you on Teams then.
Right. Thank you. But I'll be happy to talk to you.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, that's it. So we will stop the recording.